The Summer League has ended for Bronny James. There's been a lot of mixed reviews of him as an NBA player, or even whether or not he should be in the NBA. I hear a lot of ranges from he could be a decent role player to he could be a great defender. He might be a good 3-and-D guy to he shouldn't even be in the league. So everybody has been all over the place when it comes to Bronny James. Let's start by probably addressing the elephant in the room, nepotism. Nepotism is the act of granting an advantage, privilege, or position due to relatives or friends in an occupied field. We all know he played at USC. We all know that he played 1 year, and even that year was cut short because he didn't really start the season. He had, I think, a heart condition injury, so he got a slow start. When he did come in, I think he was coming off the bench and not playing a lot of minutes and averaging very few points. So to a lot of people, they're like, how can he even be drafted? Even though he went to the McDonald's All-American game, and even though he was probably in the top 100 of high school players, there's even people that believe that that's only because he was LeBron James' son, and maybe that has a reason to be why he shot up the draft charts. But as far as nepotism, should he be in the league? Is it fair? We see this a lot of times in other entities in life. Jerry Jones' son comes to mind. He's the GM of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's never had any GM experience. We see people become assistant coaches and stuff like that because their dad is the head coach or whatever. We do see situations where people are put in positions just based on who they know and the relatives around them. It happens in sports. It happens outside of sports. You know what I'm saying? People get hired because they are friends or family of someone else. I can't really be mad because I would have to ask myself, if I was a fringe NBA player and I had a dad that was in the NBA and that helped me get to the NBA, I couldn't be mad. And if I was the LeBron James of the NBA, would I not try to reach down and give somewhat of a helping hand to my son? I can't say that I wouldn't do that. So I'm not really mad at the situation. What really bothered me the most in terms of this was not so much the nepotism. That was pretty much granted that was probably going to occur. But I always say when you do stuff, just say what it is. You know what I'm saying? Just say what it is. I think Rich Paul did a whole grandstand of this whole, Bronny doesn't even care who he plays for. He's not trying to play with his dad. And LeBron James has came to the conclusion that, he doesn't really care, one way or the other if he plays with his son. That was put out there a lot.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
I've gotten a lot of lessons and stuff from my mom and my dad. But also just like putting that Bronny James narrative out there more is instead of just being LeBron James' son. I think that's really important for me.
And then you started hearing closer to the draft that he would only work out with certain teams. So you can't have it both ways. Does he not want to play for the Lakers and his dad, or he doesn't really care, or are you really trying to strategically get him to that point? It was reported that he will only work out with the Suns and the Lakers. So clearly, those are the only two teams that will probably draft him if they're the only two people that can work him out. It was also put out there that Rich Paul was telling GM not to draft Bronny James. I do believe that was put out there. And Rich Paul has kind of turned into probably the most important person in the NBA that's not an NBA owner. Like him as a sports agent, he probably has 30 to 40% of the NBA players. And when you have that much power, let's just say a team would have drafted Bronny just out of spite. Like, we're going to draft him anyway. He could have strategically talked to his agent or talked to his people that he represent. And whatever team had took Bronny, like, not in good faith, he could have strategically made sure that no free agents went there that was under his agency. So that's why he has so much power. That's why when he can call GMs and say, yo, don't even draft Bronny, it's actually in your best interest not to draft him because he controls so many free agents and so many NBA players, probably at least 30%, and it's consistently growing. So you don't even want to get on the bad side of Rich Paul, which is a lot of reasons why people don't like LeBron James. Like, they have their own feelings about him, but his ability to control a lot of the NBA and NBA free agency and stuff like that through Rich Paul, who has a lot of clients, is just another reason why people don't like LeBron James. So in terms of that, I just wish they were honest. They should have just said, yo, Bronny would love to play with LeBron and LeBron would love to play with Bronny. Don't try to make it seem like it don't matter. He's just happy to be in the NBA. He'll play anywhere he can, and then behind the scenes tell people not to draft him. So that was probably the only thing that was a little bit discouraging about the situation. But as far as nepotism, It was to be expected that if you're LeBron James' son, you're going to have the upper hand and come into the NBA. And I expect his other son that's also playing right now, if he can continue to grow and get NBA looks, I expect him to get the same kind of treatment when he comes into the league. So let's look at Bronny's on-court production. He played 4 games. He averaged about 25 minutes a game, 35% field goal shooting, almost 16% three-point shooting, averaged a little less than 9 points, 3 rebounds a game, 1 assist per game, and 2.3 turnovers per game. Nowhere near eye-popping stats. In fairness to him, he started off really, really bad and got a lot better the last 2 games. So his first 2 games were like super trash, and his last 2 games were pretty decent. So it kind of like balanced out his average. But overall, his average is still 35% from the field and 16% from three-point range. And when you come in as like a good defensive player, the first thing you need to be able to do is at least be able to play good defense and shoot threes if you're going to play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And he hasn't been able to show that he can do that on a consistent basis. Now, another reason why he was drafted, he's a cash cow. I mean, look how many people was actually at the arena to watch him play. Like, it was just crazy. He's actually getting covered like Caitlin Clark is being covered, except Caitlin Clark is like one of the top females in her league, and Bronny isn't. But he's being covered just like that. Every one of his games will be talked about. All of his games have been talked about, good or bad. And just look at the jersey sales. Over 500,000 sold already, to the equivalent of $50 million. So already, if you even feel like we don't really know if we should have wasted a draft pick on him, we don't really know if we should be going through all this, you have profited $50 million already just in jersey sales. And he hasn't even played an NBA game. So a lot of this is also a business decision for the Lakers as to why they did it too. Yeah, you want to make LeBron James happy, but at the end of the day, you know, Bronny James and his jersey sales is also a cash cow for you as well. So I think that's a big reason as to also why it was worth the risk for them drafting him. Now, there was a report that came out that from an anonymous source, so, you know, we don't want to give too much credence to it, but I will read it. It was a Lakers Summer League player, anonymous source. You could feel there was no unity between this group of guys, as Bronny James was the main guy and the others didn't feel that it was right nor that he deserved it. I mean, he was treated as someone apart from us, not like all of us, and that was very annoying as we didn't feel any chemistry in this group of players. I ended up being very frustrated. I was never put in the best situation, and even some of the plays or game plans because they wanted Bronny to show his skills and shine. If you talk to any other player that was part of the roster of the California Classic and the Summer League, most of them will tell you the same thing. The tensions were visible, and pretty much we were all thinking about the end of Summer League to get out of here and focus on the next step of our careers. That was an anonymous Laker player. Unfortunately, nobody cares. I got to keep it real with you. Unfortunately, nobody cares. If you weren't Connect, who was like with the 16th pick in the draft, or you were Bronny James, nobody cares at the end of the day. I don't think anybody else on this roster was going to make it or even get a good look. So I understand your frustration, but, you know, first of all, put a name on what you say. You're an anonymous Laker Summer League player. And Bronny James was being covered like he was like some superstar. So I probably can say that this might be true, even though I don't respect it because it's an anonymous source. But these are the things that are starting to come out now. If you look at him on the court, he definitely has some things he can work on. Some of his decision making needs to be a little bit better. I feel like he's a great athlete. He's a great defender, but he has to get better as a shooter. In today's NBA, if you are not, you know, pretty much a knockdown shooter being wide open, he had a lot of looks that he was wide open that he could not knock down.
With the rebound and the push.
Bronny James is actually wide open for 3, but he's not shooting the ball well. What he should do is drive into the paint, draw the defense, and kick it to number 4 in the corner.
Walks into the 3. James. Left it on the front rim. Looking much more comfortable game after.
Bronny has a couple options right here. He can dump the ball off to the left side or the right side. Both of his players are streaking towards the rim. Or he can shoot the ball over outstretched arms. He chooses the latter.
Game after game, Bronny James' float game is a little bit short.
Great tracking from.
6 feet between you and the closest defender in today's NBA, you got to knock that down.
Behind.
There's the shot from Bronny. Not the desired result for Florida State. Spent some time.
Like I said earlier, with this much open space, you got to be able to knock down a shot, especially playing with Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
With the Utah Jazz, sprays it out to Bronny. That one a little.
And Bronny is a long-term project.
Right.
JJ sat with us, talked about development. Can he get that three to go? And no.
Lack of transition defense.
This is just lack of confidence. You haven't been shooting the ball well. Your closest defender is 6 feet from you, and you still don't want to take the shot.
Doesn't know where to go. Kicks it out to Bronny, and he's called for the walk. Had a wide open three.
Got to shoot it. And again, that's where the confidence wavers.
Now, on the flip side of that, he played tremendous defense. So, you could kind of see that might probably end up being his calling card. And, I think another good thing about him is being under so much scrutiny, it didn't break him. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he got better as Summer League went on, as opposed to the first 2 games when people were saying like, yo, how could you even draft him? He's trash. He's the worst Summer League player. And then he got better as it went on. So he was able to at least block out the noise.
I don't know if people really understand Bronny. He doesn't care. I actually cared a little bit when I came in. I wanted people to like me, and some of the things that people were saying about me, it kind of bothered me early on in my career. I let it get to me. Bronny doesn't give a.
You could take a lot of that as far as his ability to be a good pro. You can kind of tell that he was raised the right way and all that kind of stuff, and he answered questions the right way. He has a great humbleness about him. So if you look at that, his hustle, his tenacity, and his defense, that's the good points you can take away from this. He has a great looking shot. So you can probably say that, with enough practice and everything around NBA, coaches and everything, he can only get better at shooting.
Of course, his brother, Larry Nance Jr., with the pass. Bronny.
Surveying the court, he has Amani Bates, who is much taller than him. All he has to do is drive by him. He's already given him the left side of the lane. Just drive by him, put your body into him, and use your left hand. I can already see that Bronny James has a great left hand already in the NBA.
Play with 5:16 on the clock, but it's one of those plays that could come back to bite.
Bronny with the left, high off the glass to give the Lakers their first lead.
The Nance, for the second time, these two have connected for a Nance 3.
He's got 16 points a game.
This is him using a pick and roll into a step back 3. As you can see in today's NBA, man, if you don't know how to do the pick and roll offense, it's going to be tough for you as a guard. But if you look at his jumper right here, he has great lift off the ground. He also has great form. I think he'll be a good shooter, at least respectable. I think probably the average NBA 3-point shooter is probably about 36, 37%. He can probably be on the upper echelon of that if he works at it, because the form is there.
10 of them coming here in the fourth quarter. Bronny step back into that three.
I still feel like most of the time he'll spend in a G League. But there's this notion that people have that he's not going to play in the NBA. He's definitely going to play in the NBA this year. I don't think they would have drafted him if he wasn't going to come up and actually play. Because you got to think the Lakers are all about headlines. They're all about making sure that they can stay relevant in some capacity. They're not really a developmental team, or organization. A lot of people talk about, you can go to the Lakers and Bronny James can develop. Every time someone has came to the Lakers that was a young player, where it was Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, they ship them away because LeBron only want to play with vets. This is not an organization that actually brings you up from the ground up and make you into a star or whatever. Like that's not, because they have a win now mentality. A lot of times, if you're not ready right now, they ship you out. Now, maybe that is starting to change, and maybe they realize we're going to have to focus on connect. We're going to focus on other people. But to label this organization as a good organization for building people up and teaching, I think that's what they were trying to sell with the whole JJ Redick thing. I just don't see it. But I do think that he will actually play. Can you imagine this? LeBron James is in the game, whether it's a blowout, a close game, whatever the case, and Bronny James checks in. First of all, that's going to be leading Sports Center for 2 or 3 days in a row. You know what I'm saying? Bronny James checks in. His first bucket, his first assist, his first block, all that stuff will be covered. just that alone will be worth putting him in the game. That's why he's going to come up and he's going to play. Even if it's like, yo, we just got you in for a blowout or whatever. The first assist from Bronny to LeBron will be televised, you know what I'm saying, over and over again. It'll probably get over 1 million views on YouTube. So be on the lookout for that, but I do feel like he'll spend most of his time in the G League, and you may not see him for the first couple months of the NBA season, but I do feel like eventually they'll bring him up. He'll start traveling with the team, and he will check in the games and will play. He signed a fully guaranteed deal, which was another thing that was a little bit, I ain't gonna say unheard of, but it was kind of rare. That it doesn't happen a lot that people sign, especially the kind of money he signed for. He almost signed for almost $2 million a year. You know, I think 4 years, about $7.5 million or something like that. But like I said, you done already made it up in the jersey sales. So I don't see him getting a lot of run this year. Next year, which is like probably LeBron's last year with the Lakers, unless he signs again, who knows, with the way he's been playing. But you got to temper your expectations when it comes to Bronny James, especially for this year. I don't really see him playing much at all, only in blowouts. I do feel like they're going to bring him up. It's going to be a circus when he comes up and plays. I think the Lakers are all about publicity, so he will get in the game. But unless it's a blowout, they up 20 in the fourth, down 20 in the fourth, something like that, I could see that. Do I see him checking in the first quarter, some shit like that? I do not see that at all. So I don't think he'll play much or make much of an impact. They do want to be able to say, we allow LeBron James to play with his son. So you will see him check into the game. But that's my take on Bronny, man. So, you know, I wish him the best. I don't wish nothing bad on him. And, you know, he seems like a good kid. I feel a little sorry for him, to be real with you, because I feel like I'm even looking at Skip Bayless. I'm like so happy he's getting off TV, because I'm like, yo, you literally are comparing every one of his games, and then you're comparing it against LeBron. It's just like, yo, let this dude live. And social media can be brutal, man. It can definitely be brutal, but he seems to be handling it well. So I wish him the best, man. Maybe he'll go down to Summer League. People will forget about him for a while. The Lakers will start off and have a good season. And then when you finally see Bronny James, he's on the bench somewhere and barely playing. And then when he checks in, they down 20, up 20, and nobody's really making a big spectacle of him playing. That's the best case scenario. Trying to throw him in the first quarter or third quarter, or to guard De'Aaron Fox full court and all this kind of stuff, and really looking at him for pressure moments would be a huge mistake at this point in time. But that's just my thoughts, man. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, like the video. Appreciate the support. Holla at your boy.